666.
Nomu outshines TASI, which is their main market, with a 209% market cap growth. Saudi Arabia's parallel markets Nomu capped index took investors by surprise as its value grew at a faster rate than the main market's TASI during the first quarter of 2022, according to a report in Arab News. Nomu's market capitalization rose 209% on the year to 10.3 billion from 3.3 billion in the same period 1 year ago. The main market, TASI, which captures the performance of 215 firms listed on the Saudi exchange, increased at a slow rate of 24% to 319 billion. 24% isn't bad in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Nomu is really interesting, Richard. It's as you mentioned, the parallel market launched in 2017, so it's somewhat newer, restricted to qualified investors. And it has attracted companies seeking to sell shares to the public with lighter listing requirements or regulations. So it's a little bit easier to get listed there if you don't want to go through all the hoops to get onto the Tadawul, which, as you mentioned, is also doing very well. But it shows more of a mature market. And we had a great conversation with Amjad Ahmed from who's an entrepreneur, and he's with Empower ME at the Atlantic Council, talking a little bit about entrepreneurship. We talked about IPOs. Just great discussion on our YouTube channel, wherever you get your podcast. But this is a really interesting space. And it's very kind of a shocking number from the Nomu, 209% market cap growth. That's huge.
Well, and it really affirms the decision to do it. I mean, in 2017, and the difference, so for example, in terms of requirements to list. So on the Nomu parallel market, you must have been carrying on a main activity for at least one financial year. On the main market, it's 3 financial years. You have to have on the Nomu audited preceding financial year only. On the main market, 3 financial years. Aggregate value of shares on the Nomu, 10 million reals. On the main, 100 million reals. So it's a mechanism that they put in place, and it's extraordinary. I mean, in a year to bounce from 3.3 billion in value to 10.3 billion. And what I also thought was interesting is that even though there are lighter requirements to list, it's not like anybody can get on. And so in this first quarter, I gather that 62 companies applied for to be on the parallel market, Nomu. Only 6 were approved. So it is a different access. It is easier access, but it's not like anybody can show up. You still have to have your ducks in a row to a certain extent.
Yeah, food delivery platform Jahez International, we've talked about on the show, was the first ever local tech startup on Nomu, and it generated $428 million in proceeds. That's crazy.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Wow.
In my book, that's the first Saudi unicorn because it was valued over $1 billion, and it was a startup. So and private sector, completely private sector. So yeah, I mean. Right now Saudi Arabia is in sort of every facet of its game is going from success to success. Here's another one.